what people don't know, and they think that I'm not this, and every time I say this out loud, people are like, really, you? I'm scared as fuck. Okay, I have a little bit more control. Sorry, that's so scary. I have a little bit more control of my life because I felt like everything was uncontrollable at that time.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Neo Noir's Wellness Series, where we amplify the voices of Black people and people of color, sharing their stories of vulnerability, resilience, and wellness. I'm Jessica Brown, founder of Neo Noir Therapy and Wellness in Washington, D.C. Today, I'm joined by Professor Monica Stockhausen, an incredible, dynamic entrepreneur, the founder of Proven, a coaching program for entrepreneurs, and Nerdy Girl Lifestyle. Monica Stockhausen is a well-renowned monetization strategist, speaker, and business professor, named as one of California's 47th District 30 Most Influential People Under 30. Through her online business coaching program, Proven, Monica helps budding entrepreneurs hone their craft to reimagine security and find economic independence. As a prolific speaker and business coach, Monica is known for curating a psychological and simplified approach to building businesses and creating profitability. So, thank you, Monica, for joining us today. So excited to have you, and
I'm so happy to be here.
Yes, and I've known you for, since college?
It's been a minute.
But yeah. I've been able to watch you grow just exponentially, and it's so inspiring.
Thank you.
So I want to be able, for the viewers and the listeners, to be able to learn more about the things that you're working on, Nerdy Girl and Proven.
Yeah. So Nerdy Girl is my first love. This is the thing that came out of blood, sweat, and tears of me developing. Mm-hmm. I was in a space where I didn't know how to negotiate my salary. I felt intimidated in front of men, like a whole bunch of men in the room. I think I cried a lot in a lot of my career transition living in a big city, New York City. And when I finally made it, whatever that means, when I finally got to a place where I felt secure, I wanted to give other women the same. I wanted to make sure they knew what it took to be competitive, right? And to land jobs or land entrepreneurial opportunities that they didn't think they could do it. And so I created Nerdy Girl to help women remain competitive in the US job market. And I recently added the entrepreneurial perspective. So we're helping women negotiate their salaries, basically transform their life in this 3-day seminar. It's super intensive. They get a psychotherapist, they get an emotional intelligence coach, they get professional headshots. This is really like the blueprint to any start of anybody's professional career. Mm-hmm. And so while I was doing that and impacting the world, social impact, helping women get theirs, I still felt like I wasn't getting mine. I was in a good place. I was a professor, I had my business, and I even worked for a nonprofit. I had a lot of good titles, but your girl was breaking even, okay? I was breaking even. I was upset because I felt like I had this reputation where I was extremely successful, I'm growing exponentially, but my bank account was not growing exponentially.
Right, it didn't reflect all the hard work that you were putting in.
It wasn't, and I felt like even though I would negotiate, I felt capped out on my salary and how much I could make. I just kept saying to myself, I just need a little extra money. Even when I wasn't breaking even, Jessica, I just felt like I can't live the life that I want. I wanted to get into real estate. I wanted to buy property. I wanted to travel all around the world. And my bank account was like, nah.
You can go from home to work.
You can do that and pay for this expensive ass car you got. And I was just like, this can't be it. How am I making other women's dreams come true and I'm not paying attention to myself? So something really shifted in me to really focus on my finances and really focus on me. So I quit the nonprofit. We parted ways, and I decided to go full-time with Nerdy Girl, thinking that was gonna be my income. I said, Monica, if you can just focus on this, I think you got it. I had a coaching program at the time. It was great. I thought everything was good. But then it wasn't, because you know how life is. Just doesn't go as planned. I got really, really sick, hospital sick, and I was just, all the plans that I had for Nerdy Girl just wasn't hitting. It was a great program. It was really impacting, but it wasn't making the money that I wanted it to make. Yeah. And now this was my livelihood, Jessica. Right. So something had to shift. The extra $2,000 or $3,000 a month wasn't what I wanted. I wanted more than that. So one day, I guess the universe was listening, because one day I get a DM from someone asking about support with negotiating, right? It wasn't really my lane, but I knew about negotiating salaries, so I figured it can't be that too far off. She wanted to negotiate contracts. After I gave her the insight, gave her motivation to do it, she was like, "How can I keep you?" I said, "What?" How can I keep you? So I gave her some random number that was way below my real price. But I thought about it. I said, what about other people? I wonder if they also need my help. So I put on a flyer, girl, booked. Wow. Right? What do they say? Booked and blessed.
That was busy and blessed.
Busy and blessed. It was great. But then I had 10 to 15 clients every day. So I was really tired and I was making money. So that kind of goal hit. I was like, okay, I'm making money. Yeah. So, but I was like, but I'm tired. I left that job so I can have my life back. Some life anyway, spend time with my family, travel. I didn't have that. So I said, this can't be entrepreneurship. I was like, there's gotta be, because my partner, he's an entrepreneur too, and he works all day. But I was like, but I don't want this type of entrepreneurship. I don't want to work. I've been working hard all my life. So I invested again. I took a moment and I invested again into another program, and that catapulted into Proven, which is now the program that I have for other professionals like myself who are damn good at what they do, who are ready to monetize their expertise. I did that in the first 8 months. I monetized what the hell I was good at, which is helping people develop businesses. And so now I'm legitimately selling a high ticket program and helping other entrepreneurs, other professionals build their business. So it's so weird that they do have something connected to each other, but they don't. But it's my journey, right? It's a little messy, but I don't care because I've made it here and I'm really excited.
I love that. And just to watch the growth, I know you personally, but even just watching you on social media, just seeing all that you do in the lives that you impact, it's so inspirational. But I know that behind all of that entrepreneurship, you're talking about hardship, you're talking about challenges, you're talking about struggle. What did that look like, and how did you, what were you experiencing in those moments?
Oh, a lot. I think my therapist came in handy for sure. I think I had a therapist before I even left my job, because that job was so overwhelming. And I was doing a lot of things at once. What people don't know, and they think that I'm not this, and every time I say this out loud, people are like, really, you? I'm scared as fuck. I'm always scared. That's a real thing for me. I'm always very scared and very anxious about things. But I think the only difference between me and other people that are scared is that I actually still do it. Whatever it is that scares me the most. I just do it afraid because I can't risk staying the same. That, if I was all right, this is the end of my story. This is the way my bank account is. This is the way I'm interacting with my family. This is the way. I rather take the risk. And I constantly push myself outside that boundary. And that process of the push is overwhelming, needless to say.
The process of the push.
Because it's one thing to just say oh yeah, I pushed through it. No. The process of that, of forcing yourself outside of those protective boundaries you created for yourself to stay safe is it's overwhelming. You cry a lot. I remember in the beginning just calling my partner and saying, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I'm smart enough for this. I don't know if I'm strategic enough. I don't know if my clients are gonna get what they need. I don't know. There was a lot of just unknowns. And this is why it's so important to have healthy-minded people by your side, because they're not going to say, oh yeah, I don't think you can either. Yeah. They're going to tell you you know what? I know right now you're feeling like you're empty, but you're building right now. And if you feel like you have a gap in something, then go seek support. If you feel like you've hit capacity, then go seek support. If you feel like you can do it by yourself, then go do that. Cry a little, that's fine. Do what you got to do, but get your ass up and do what you have to do. And that as an entrepreneur, you kind of feel well, I'm sad right now. Can I be sad right now?
Right.
but not if your livelihood is dependent on it. So that's what I mean about the process of the push. You have to deal with all that mess in between with yourself, because entrepreneurship exposes everything about you, good and bad. And you have to be accepting. You have to be compassionate, and you have to be understanding to yourself that you're not going to be perfect, because in the professional world, maybe you was perfect, but not in entrepreneurship world. So I think having healthy people around me, for sure, healthy-minded people who also want me to do well, have good intentions for me, and my therapist who's Black. She's amazing, really helping me shape. She shaped my leap, like, so I can leave. Yeah. She really challenged me to leave. She challenged my faith and what I said I believed in, because spirituality played a huge part in me leaping. And she really challenged what I said that I was about. Oh, you talk this big shit, but where's the actions backing it up? You know all this stuff, but why aren't you like, you know what I mean?
Like, where's the evidence?
Where's the evidence? Like, cause I can talk some big shit, Jessica. I can talk some big shit.
We can make it sound good too.
I can make it sound good, you know? I can really do that. But when it comes to actions, I'm scared as fuck. And so having people around you to push you to do that, it starts to become a rhythm. I think now taking action is not such a big thing anymore. It's not as overwhelming, because I feel like I put my bid in, I put my time in to make that kind of more of a skill rather than this like new overwhelm thing.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And one thing that you hit on is you said entrepreneurship, it brings out the good and the bad, right? So when we see entrepreneurs on Instagram and social media, they make it look beautiful, like it's flashy, like you have all this freedom. And I think there is a false narrative a lot of times that comes with entrepreneurship. And I think a lot of people are going into entrepreneurship getting this idea that it's going to be, you know, glorious and free, money's falling from the trees. And that's not what that is. No. So can you dive a little bit deeper into what were some of the bads that came out or that were brought out that you had to kind of reconcile with?
You know, I think that some of the undesirable things that came out was feeling incompetent in other areas, right? Because evolving from a professional to entrepreneurship is a different ballgame. Yeah. You don't do the same things in the space. Yes, you're an expert in this, but in the land of entrepreneurship, you have to do everything, so you're not gonna be good at everything. It's just, so seeing my gaps, I'm a person who really gets her high esteem for herself because of how smart I am. So when I seen those gaps, like I had, you know, almost an identity crisis. Like, but who am I really? Yeah. You know, and I agree with the false narrative piece, because although you know as a mature adult that it's not instant gratification, low key though, you want some kudos, right? Yeah, you want to feel good. You want to win. Yeah. Small wins, big wins, whatever. I'll take them all, right? Yeah. You want to win. But when you get in there and you come up against immense failure, you have to start reevaluating your relationship with failure. So in the beginning, failure was this really tough blow. Yeah. You know, because shit had to be perfect for me initially. But now as an entrepreneur, failure is indeed a best friend of mine. It's an opportunity. It's a chance to pivot. It's a chance to move a different space where I was uncomfortable. It's a chance to learn a new tool. It's a little different. It doesn't put me in a space of like, I don't wallow as much, depending on how big the failure is. Right. I don't wallow as much, but kind of like, okay, that didn't work, so let me try this. Because, you know, if you're a solopreneur, you got your tech, your marketing, your
finance, all that.
You know, so give yourself some space, but, you know, like your ad will go wrong. No one will like your flyer, no converts, no, you know, that's going to happen. Yeah. But in entrepreneurship, you just have to take it. Just take it. I think we attach so much to it. And if we just look at it objectively and say, oh, well, that didn't happen, not that didn't happen, it was because of you, you shouldn't have made that decision, so on and so forth, you should have learned, and then you go into some spiral.
Right.
But looking at it objectively and say, you know what, that didn't work, let me figure out why, or let me ask for help. Before then, and probably people who are not in entrepreneurship think that way too, which is great, but I didn't, and it took me a while to learn that.
So what did that spiral for you look like when you would experience a failure? And then it sounds like you've already experienced some sense of like imposter syndrome, right? Where you're like, maybe I don't fit into this space. Maybe I'm not good enough to be in this space. Like, what was that experience like, so that we can normalize those symptoms for other people who might be experiencing that too?
Yeah. Some of the symptoms that I experience is projecting it on other people. So if I had some sort of, if a limitation of mine was exposed, I would then place that limitation on other people.
Ooh. Give me a specific example of what that looked like.
So I feel like, so I think if they wanted to charge a certain price and I haven't had that price, right? Then I would project in my mind like, oh, you should start here, right? Or I would start to get insecure about if something didn't go right with a client, oh, it's my fault. I'll internalize the whole situation instead of looking at it objectively.
Yeah.
You know? And those are the moments they don't talk about on social media. I do my best to stay transparent as much as I feel comfortable with on social media, because it is the world, you know? But a lot of people don't. They just, it's a highlight reel, right? Because we're promoting. That's what Instagram is for, is to promote products. It is not for entertainment like people think it is. It's for business,
right? Promotion,
you know? So you are gonna see the best sides of people because it's promotion of you and whatever else your propaganda is. But I think that in those moments, I'm really good at checking myself. Being self-aware is really important because I can tell when I'm projecting. So even though I might not say that to a client, but I'm feeling it, and then I get off the phone and say, you know, well, Monica, you either need to call your therapist or you need to leave this alone, because it is not your job to limit anyone else in this space. Your job is to propel them and amplify them and take them as far as they can go. Their wins are your wins. That was like in the very early stage of it, because I was so insecure about this new space that I was in.
Yeah.
After 8 months, I've come to see the greatness of what could be possible. And I've really honed in this skill of coaching and not projecting at all. But in the beginning, I really felt really painfully insecure about what I could produce and where I could move people.
Yeah, and I think that's a difficult adjustment because it's so quick, right? Like, you went from being such an uber confident person where you were excelling in everything, and then you went into this new space and you were like, oh shit.
And you're at the bottom of the bottom. Like, you are at the bottom, like you're starting new, and you see these other people getting it, you know? And so then you try to like system hack their stuff.
Right.
You'll buy into their stuff just to see how they're doing it. You'll look and see, but you're realizing you're missing the context, and you're missing the strategy. So when it don't work for you, you pissed off.
And it doesn't feel authentic at the end of the day either.
It doesn't feel, because now that I'm where I'm supposed to be, all of my stuff is literally made because it fits me. The business fits me in the way that I want to produce. And everyone has their own. But when you first get into it, you just try to copycat because you don't know. You know, it's you know, you're naive.
Yeah.
So you just try to copy a formula somebody's doing. But once you get mature in the game, you kind of just feel like, well, this is how I want my life to set up. So this is how I'm going to set up my business. And it's just going to be that. And what I do, I'll take tools, I'll peep tools from other people. But if it doesn't work and it's not sustainable for me, then I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
And that's how I protect my peace.
Yeah. And it sounds like you had like a long journey of getting from a place of insecurity and comparison and copycatting in a way, like navigating this new role into finding your true identity and your authenticity. And you mentioned that therapy kind of helped attributed to that growth. When did you recognize that you couldn't do it alone? That this wasn't just a you thing that you had to fight through? What was your pivot to seek extra support?
Well, I started seeing a therapist when I was 24, 23. I used to work in this nonprofit back in New York City, and I was working with kids who were in prison, and I got attacked by one of the clients. And so I left on disability, and I had PTSD, and I had to go to therapy, so it was mandated.
Wow.
I probably would have went to therapy anyway, but God, I was tore up, girl.
Yeah, that's terrifying.
I had never gotten, like, first of all, I don't fight. Okay, so, and then I'd never been attacked like that in my life. So I was just really scared and traumatized. But when I went to therapy, that time, my therapist I think I lucked out with a really good therapist, because he would show me certain things I would say to myself that just wasn't accurate or wasn't fair, I should say. Like, I used to tell him, well, I should know this. I should have done this. He would say, should? What do you mean by should? You know? And then I wouldn't even realize that I had put this imaginary pressure of myself to know things I've never experienced before. Like, how would I have known that person would have attacked me? How would I know would I be placed in a situation where no one could protect me?
Yeah.
Right? But, you know, you hear from other people, don't ever let anybody do you like that or hurt you like that. How am I supposed to not let somebody do that? You know? So with that, and then processing a very emotional, abusive relationship, I felt that need for therapy, because it was an objective point of view that would take some things out that I didn't recognize that I was imprisoning myself with. And I just remember leaving each time feeling better and better, and more just like a relief of just like, okay, I have a little bit more control. Sorry, that's okay. I have a little bit more control of my life, because I felt like everything was uncontrollable at that time. And to be in that space where I felt like someone understood where I was coming from and had compassion for me, in which at that time I didn't even know what compassion meant to myself. I felt like this is something that has to stay in my life. It feels good to be here. It feels good in this space. At that time, I didn't have anyone who understood. And to have someone come and listen to me objectively and to just listen was, at that point in my life, was pivotal to where I was going after that. And I can see the because after that, I became a professor. At 24, after that, I became a professor, and I was like getting it, like, and I needed that release of all the pain that I had went through in that city. And I feel like that therapist, he has no idea, but that therapist was a light for me. It was really a light.
Thank you for sharing that. And it's incredibly powerful, because a lot of times in our community, we are so scared of seeking therapy or sharing our experiences with someone who we feel may judge us. And, you know, there's a lot of shame with what we're experiencing. And you mentioning, you know, feeling like I should have known what to do in that situation. You're putting the responsibility back on yourself, and that's starting to beat you down because you feel like you didn't have what it took to withstand that situation.
Yeah, not considering that there are external variables at play that you could not have prepared for. And having to reflect on that and to like look at that situation and say, it wasn't all my fault. It's like I had this very internal locus of control where with whether it was desirable or undesirable things, I would think it was about me. So if it's all bad, it's my fault. If it's all good, it's my fault. So with all bad things, it would just be like, oh, I'm the problem.
Where do you think that comes from? And I know I'm getting a little deep.
No, it's okay.
But
come on with it.
Where do you think that comes from? Like, was that something that was taught to you in your childhood, or was that something that you just had to learn as almost like a defense mechanism?
I'm not sure. I've noticed this in my romantic relationships as well, that I do function from in out versus out in. So I'm not necessarily looking at things objectively first. I'm projecting my perception about it and where I come from first. And so sometimes I don't see what's going on internally because I'm in here, if not most of the time.
Yeah.
And I often wonder if that's something instinctual, instinctive, and I'm just lean into it and just be better at that piece, or it's something where I need to build upon and add a more external perspective. I think up until now, I've added an external perspective, which has been very important because sometimes I won't read a room. I'll just go in and do me. But I think sometimes it's important to read a room. And so I'm learning even now, because I'm never like, I don't think I've gotten to a place where I'm done. Like, I feel like I'm still becoming Monica Stockhausen, very much so. Yes, I'm in a good place, externally, but I'm still becoming that. So even now, I feel like I'm learning to balance that instinctive nature versus the reality I live in.
Yeah. And with that comes a lot of growth that you've had to experience and a lot of misfires and trial and error. How would you define wellness from a perspective where you are now, as experiencing therapy, experiencing growth, experiencing healing versus before?
Wow, that's a big question. Defining wellness. God. So what's coming up for me when you say that is that there's multiple parts of you. I read this book, you probably know it, The Power of Now by Eckhart something, I can't remember.
Eckhart Tolle?
Tolle, yep. And that book changed my life because I didn't realize I was in my brain, right? And my brain and my mind my mind and me were separate things, right? So after that thought process, I accepted that thought process. I started to think what other parts of me are very separate, but are often integrated. And I thought about my spirituality. I thought about my physical life, my existence in general. I thought about my relationship life, both platonic and non-platonic and romantic. I thought about different parts spiritually, holistic, like everything. And it's not that all of these things need to be filled to the cup. It's just that you honor that they're there. And you realize that if you may not subscribe to a certain faith, but know that there's a spiritual world out there. You may not care about working out, but know physically you have a body that needs to be taken care of. You may not understand your mental health process right now, but understand that something is very real about what you're experiencing, and that you need to honor that you exist in this multi-level, complex existence. And so when you think that something is horribly wrong or you're overwhelmed, it's just honoring that you are there to give yourself compassion, because we are human beings, like in conflict with so many different forces. So it's not about filling the cup or being aware, but honoring that there is there's so many pieces of you, and just honor that you exist and that when you walk into a space, you change things. Honor that and feed yourself as much desirable information you need to make decisions. Don't let people rush you. Don't let people force you into anything, but just honor that you have a choice and you take up space, because once you do that, your wellness journey begins.
Wow. And
you really get to experience the complexity of life and what it means to be happy and what it means to be sad, that it's not necessarily a bad thing. So honoring those the multitude of parts of you and honoring that you exist in human, I think it's not the necessary definition of wellness, but it helps you to start your journey of wellness, I think. That was probably a lot, but
no, that's incredible.
I didn't know how to, I didn't know how to explain it, but I feel like that's where I'm at. But I don't even know that I even had I could identify what wellness meant 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. I would have probably said, well, physically you have to be healthy, all these different things. But, I did all that and still didn't recognize I existed.
Right.
So what does it matter?
And I think that's so important, because you see these people who use, and again, I'm gonna draw back to Instagram, but you see these people on Instagram who are like in the body that you want, in the shape that you want, but like, where are they mentally? Where are they spiritually? How are they doing occupationally? Or,
you don't know.
All these different facets, like you're mentioning. Like, you can physically look okay, but how many of us are physically walking around looking okay, but are not okay, right?
Not okay. I mean, most people are not okay. I was gonna write a post the other day. I said, y'all got your nerve to still be mean in a pandemic with everybody suffering? Like, most of us are not okay. And, that awareness of yourself will allow you to start to heal in the places where you feel like you're not okay. So people have to recognize that they're indeed human, and they need the same love and compassion that you would give to anybody else. A book called Self-Compassion by Dr. Christian Neff, that changed my life with that book, because I never acknowledged my own suffering, ever. And I noticed that until I read that book. And then there were moments where I would have an argument with whomever, maybe my brother or my mom. And my defense mechanism is, fuck it. They tripping, whatever. Let me just keep going, whatever. Like, whatever. They cry, they always cry, all these excuses. And then 3 days later, I found myself deeply saddened about the situation. Usually I would be like, Monica, don't trip, leave it alone. But now I'm like, hey, Monica, are you okay? Like, are you cool? Are you upset about what your mom said or what your brother said? Do you need, I've had to pull over while driving and just cry for a second, because it's me acknowledging that I exist too. And so if I'm sad right now, I need to address it, because it's going to come out regardless if I address it now or...
It's going to come out one way or another. It's going to manifest in a different way.
Right. And so I can't afford that. I don't want to do that. So I literally will pull over and put myself first and say, Monica, are you good? Who do you need to call? Do you need to call? I literally talk to myself as if I'm another person sitting right next to me. It's so crucial.
So I love that you mentioned that, because that segues into my next and very important question. What would Monica tell her younger self?
There's so many things, Jessica. Like, how young are we talking?
Maybe a age in your life where you needed it the most.
Okay. I would say like 23, 24. I'll keep it in the wellness perspective. And this is very cliche, but there's so much power in the statement when we say, like, love yourself. But I tell her to put some action behind it. Love yourself, that you will never put yourself in abusive situations. Love yourself enough that you will stand up for yourself and advocate for yourself. Love yourself that you would actually put money behind your dream and invest. Love yourself enough to write your ideas down because they're worthy. So to me, those are the things that have catapulted, like love has catapulted me into a new place where I love myself so much. I legit believe that I can do anything. I was joking with my friend the other day. We were taking photos and I was like, well, all of them are cute. They were like, why? I was like, because I love myself.
As long as I'm in it.
I don't even have to look at pictures anymore to see if they're cute. Because I'm like, it doesn't matter because I love myself. So it legit doesn't matter. And it's cliche to say, but I think when you put some action behind it, the love for yourself will catapult you into a whole new dimension of life that is so warm, so loving, and you start to attract people who love themselves. And that's the best, because then you're around people who love each other, which reinforces the love for yourself. So that's what I would tell her. Love yourself in a way that you are willing to put some action behind it, for sure.
It gave me all the warm and fuzzies just in that.
Write that down.
All of that was so deep and heavy, and I think so many people are going to be inspired by that and take away from that. But I just want to end on like a more upbeat note, since that was deep. So I just have a few quick fire questions for you.
Okay.
Didn't give you these in advance, so they're completely off the cuff.
Get some rosé.
Yeah, take a sip, take a sip. All right, quick fire question number 1. What is your favorite song at the moment? And if you're feeling bold, sing it.
Oh my God. Okay, it's Big Sean. I Got the Moves. And he talks about, he says, give me the ball and I won't have to pass it. I ain't passing out till I'm asthma attacking. I take the plan and I back to back, hit after hit, check the batting average. And it's something about really killing it, but whatever. Like that song gets me so hyped because it's like I can count on me at all times to flip it, acrobatic, whatever. You can bet on me. I'm gonna get shit done.
Ooh,
I love that song.
Love it. All right, number 2. What is one thing on your bucket list?
I want to, well, this is weird, but I want to live in different countries for a few months at a time, like all around the world.
Okay.
So it's not one country, but I want to take a year to just live everywhere and just like immerse myself.
I love that. And you can, because you're a full-time entrepreneur. So go off.
My dream!
All right, last question. You're hosting a dinner and you get to invite 5 celebrities, dead or alive. Who's coming to dinner?
First of all, I fucking love Michelle Obama. She's like my idol. For sure, that one. God, okay. It's so cliche for a Black woman, but I don't care. Definitely Michelle Obama, Beyonce, but I also would add Madonna to it because she's a powerhouse. Like I don't think really know. Like Madonna changed the era, and actually Beyonce she said that's her inspiration when she owned her masters and owned her own company.
Oh wow.
And I was just looking further into her, and she's just dope as shit. So I was just like, wow. Tracee Ellis Ross, because who doesn't love that woman? You said 5?
Yep, 5.
Okay.
So you got Madonna, Beyonce, Michelle Obama, Tracee Ellis Ross. One more.
Oh my God. No, I don't even know. I can't even think.
Past or alive. They can be dead or alive.
Who would I think I'm overthinking it because it's like I'm being strategic about it. I'm like, I don't even need to do that. I would have to say Shirley Chisholm. Yeah.
That would be an interesting conversation between her and Michelle.
Yeah.
Especially.
Like when I watched that series, Mrs. America, I had no idea the impact that Shirley had. And I'm like, to be in that space, to have to deal with those men and power and politics. Wow, that's crazy. So yeah, there we go. We'll do Shirley.
Nice. Well, we'll give a shout out to Kamala.
Yeah.
As she is navigating that space too. But
that's amazing.
Monica, thank you so much for joining us. And this has been an incredible conversation, and I'm sure will change so many lives and inspire so many people to, seek support, get the help that they deserve, and go on their path of entrepreneurship, whatever that looks like for them.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This is so dope.
Of course.